What's up, YouTube? It is US Champs weekend, and so I threw up an Instagram Q&A, and you guys had a lot of questions. So didn't have to be in regards to meet week, to US Champs week, just questions in general, and we got a lot of them. I'm gonna try and get as many of them as I can. I might try and group them together a little bit because there's a lot of really similar questions. So training's going well. I'm happy with where things are at. Technique has been hit and miss. Gym is going really well. Body weight is good. I feel healthy. I feel strong. Now I just need to get my technique to click, and there'll be some far throws. So let's jump into this Q&A and answer some questions. What does your lifting look like this week? And this was a really common question. A lot of people asked about meet week taper, weight room based training, the week of the meet, the days leading up to the meet. I'll preface it with your goals for a major, whether it's a US champ, district meet if you're in high school, whatever it might be, vary from athlete to athlete. Some athletes definitely are better under a heavier training load, and that's kind of where I'm at this time of year. So I'm coming off of a big, heavy indoor season in terms of the weight room, throwing heavy shots. If I taper down right now and just go to very minimal lifting, almost none, I'll feel really good, but my body's not used to that. So you kind of have to take into account of how you want to feel, which is obviously good, but you also have to take into account what are you going to perform the best at. You won't necessarily perform the best when you feel your absolute best, if that makes sense. If I'm used to being tired and beat down in training and I feel really fresh, that's great, but it's really hard to execute. So I'm trying to find that happy medium of heavy training, strong, and feeling good and feeling fresh, but able to technically execute in the middle. So it's a really fine line to kind of toe. So my taper this week will look a lot different than it will in the summer. Right now, we're gonna stay on the weights a lot more. We're gonna stay on heavier weights. And so the reps will drop from what they have been, but they won't be nearly as low as they would have been outdoors. So this is a really complicated process. I'm trying to kind of dumb it down a little bit and make it simplified so you can apply it to everyone, but it's different for every single athlete. Like I said, one athlete responds well to heavy load, one responds with very minimal load. I'm kind of in the middle. I tend to respond a little bit better to heavier load in terms of weight room volume and throws volume. So we're not gonna taper down too much. So I throw on Sunday. Monday, I will hit a heavy front squat, some heavy pulls, and then Tuesday will be a heavy bench day. Wednesday, technical throwing. Thursday and Friday will both be speed lifting days. So I'll do a dynamic lower body, a dynamic upper body, and Friday evening I will travel to the meet. Saturday will be a rest and recover day, hopefully get some drills in, and then Sunday is the comp. So that's the way I'm structuring the week. A lot of reps will be in the threes range, fours, threes, maybe in the occasional two, but definitely staying on the higher weight side and higher reps. Have you ever had hand injuries? A couple ones mentioning hand and elbow injuries as well. I've got the elbow sleeve on right now, more as a preventative to keep it warmed up, but I will say if you are a shot putter, odds are you've had hand injuries. It comes with the event, unfortunately. And so all I can say in regards to hand injuries is be smart. Rest is definitely better. If you're feeling pain with it, don't try to rush back. I know from experience that usually if you're having pain in your hand, it's your body telling you something. This is a really long answer that really should be its own video. So I'm planning on doing a cut on how to tape your wrist and how to strengthen your hand, and those will probably be two pretty long separate videos. But all I can say is be smart about it. But yes, I have had injuries. I've torn, well, you can see my right hand to my left. It is a lot bigger. I've torn each of these ligaments on each finger. I've had elbow problems almost every single year. And so it's more of not if you're going to have a hand injury or an elbow injury, it's managing the injury and the pain and getting yourself back to training. And the main reason I say be smart about it is because a lot of the times if you're having hand pain, it will impact your technique a lot. And so if my hand hurts when I'm applying pressure on the ball, I'm gonna have a tendency to pull off, and it's counterintuitive because if I pull off of the ball instead of accelerating through and keeping that acceleration path long, when I'm pulling off, I'm accelerating all of my energy into the ball in a much smaller range of motion, and it's your body's trying to get rid of the ball because it's hurting, but you're increasing the force that's applied to your hand so much more. And so that's a major reason that sometimes you're having hand pain and it does not want to get better, is because you're actually making that acceleration path worse. So be aware of that. If you're having lingering pain, see a doctor. I am not a medical professional and not giving medical advice. Be aware of it. Use common sense. Do not try to throw your way through it. Be smart, develop a treatment plan, and get help if needed. Do you throw a day before the competition or rest? That's a great question. It depends. So I like to throw the day before the comp. That's the general answer. As a professional athlete, I a lot of times don't have that option. Whether I'm traveling in the day before, or for example with this weekend, odds are I'll travel in Friday. I get in Friday at almost 10 p.m. and then Saturday the meet is going. So I most likely will not have the chance to throw. And so at the pro level and at any level, odds are things will not go exactly according to plan. So be aware of that and be flexible. So I would love to be able to throw the day before, but I'm planning that I will not be able to, so I'm kind of making do as best I can. So I'm gonna have my throwing shoes obviously, and find some concrete, whether it's a sidewalk, wherever it might be, and do some drills. If I can get in the ring and feel it out, fantastic. But with the meet going the day before, I probably won't be able to. Short answer is I love throwing the day before. I take a few throws, quality throws at a relatively low intensity, but a lot of times I don't get the chance to, so I try to be flexible. But I do like to do something the day before the meet. At least shake out, at least put my throwing shoes on, do drills, do something. Don't just sit in the hotel room or sit at home. Be active the day before, but not too active. Question is, are the shoes you use in practice different than the ones you use for meets? The short answer to that is I use the same shoes for practice and for meets. I like to compete in the same shoes that I've been practicing in. The one thing I would recommend to athletes, if at all financially possible, when your shoes get down to their very last little bit of tread before you wear through, get a new pair of shoes if you can. Those slower, old, broken in shoes are really, really valuable to keep and just throw them in the back of your closet. But if you have a meet that it's gonna be wet or rainy and you have a really fast ring, those older, slower, broken in shoes have a lot more grip than brand new shoes. So I like to have that little bit of overlap of a really slow pair of old broken in, and I go to new shoes. I don't want those old shoes to be completely trashed. I like to leave a little bit of life left in them. Try to do that because it's a huge advantage if you go into a meet on a fast ring and it's wet and you can get some solid grip with an older pair of shoes. But in general, 99% of meets I'm throwing in the same shoes I've been practicing in. I usually throw in shoes that are already broken in. I don't like going into the meet in brand new shoes because breaking and throwing shoes hurts your feet a little bit. They get a little bit sore. So I always try to throw in broken in shoes in the meet. Not necessarily broke down and old, but just not brand new. The big question that everyone wants to know is chubby diamond shorter than 5'7". Nick Ponzio, Italian shot putter, is been measured by me at 172 centimeters, so 5'7.5". He likes to claim he's 6 foot, but I'm sorry, Nick, I've measured at 5'7.5", 172 centimeters. All right, this is a great question, and it's, has a physicist ever evaluated your throws? The answer is yes. So in terms of physicists, track and field world, especially shot put, is very straightforward. When you let the shot go, there's a very select number of variables that impact how far it will go. So when you let it go, it is release height, release angle, and velocity. That is all that matters in the shot. So that's really easy to evaluate, and I actually worked to develop a couple of different softwares while I was at the Olympic Training Center and helped to improve on the existing software of essentially a unit that uses the same theories and same concepts as the golf ball tracker that you see on TV. And so they set it up, a radar machine behind the ring, and it will tell you how far the ball had traveled, the release velocity, release angle, height, and angle in the sector. And so that's pretty much the physics standpoint. I've also worked with a biomechanical analyst or biomech, and I find that while their intentions are really good and the data is really interesting, there's a very fine line between what is optimal for an athlete and how the human body is doing that and what the data says biomechanically. Not to discredit biomechanics at all, because I think it's a fascinating field. The numbers, a lot of times the body will kind of have a tendency to go to what is optimal for each person, and everyone is so different, both physically in height, weight, technique. It's hard to find a biomechanical analysis that exactly fits every single person. So while the data is interesting, I think that it can be difficult to get caught up in the data itself instead of finding out what works for each person individually. Favorite pre-meet snack? Mine is extra cheddar goldfish and orange Gatorade. It's definitely an orange theme to that pre-meet. This is a really common question. Favorite pre-meet snack, meal, pre and post-meet were common questions. Before the meet, I like to eat a number of hours beforehand. I really don't like eating too close to the comp. I don't want to be hungry at the comp, but I definitely don't want to feel full. So I'm pretty straightforward when it comes to food. I want something that checks the boxes as far as my macros go. So I want something with a little bit of fat, a fair number of carbs, and a decent amount of protein. And steak and potatoes is great if I'm throwing later in the evening. Usually I just load up on breakfast because a lot of times my meets are early in the afternoon. So I'll eat a big breakfast. I'm a big breakfast burrito fan. So like 6 to 8 eggs, quarter pound of bacon, and some cheese, sour cream on 2 or 3 tortillas. That kind of covers all my bases. And then I kind of snack before the meet. And a snack is just, it could be whatever's available, Cliff Bars type of thing, whatever I have that's relatively healthy. I will say one thing I do not do is experiment with foods right around the meet. I have had a bad experience last year with food poisoning, so I stick with what I know. And post-meet, shoot, I'm a big pizza enthusiast, so I love going for pizza afterwards, especially you're traveling around with the guys and it's easy to all find a place that everyone can agree on, and the whole field, all 6 or 8 throwers can go out and get pizza afterwards. That's something that everyone likes. So I'm a post-meet pizza enthusiast. Are you coming to Belgrade in 2022? I hope so. The U.S. champs are this weekend, and so I'm planning to hopefully qualify. Indoor champs for the world is a little bit different than a major championship, outdoors Olympics or outdoor world championships, in that we only get to send 2. Each country can send up to 2 athletes. So it's a more difficult team to make. I know everyone's going to say, oh, you're the #1 shot putter, but the U.S. is so deep in the shot put, I still have to bring my A game and have to show up because there is a stacked field at indoor championships this year. I definitely want to go to Belgrade. I want to compete in the 2022 World Indoor Championships and do my first World Indoor Championships ever, but I have to qualify. So God willing, I will be there. If you were coaching high school athletes, would you have them all stick rotational or allow some to glide? And I would definitely allow some to glide. At the elite level, it is pretty much all rotational. However, at the high school level, I feel like the glide is extremely relevant. The glide teaches you good fundamentals that will help you with rotation. If an athlete is just starting out, I would definitely recommend that they glide. Once they're proficient with the glide, think about switching to rotational, but I would not recommend starting with the rotation right away, because that big finish, that big delivery that you get from a glide thrower is such an advantage as you transition to be a rotational thrower. I will also add that some athletes neurologically function in a linear path, and some athletes function neurologically rotationally. So that means that some athletes are way more comfortable rotating, some feel much better and function much better in a linear line. So those are the athletes that are going to function much higher in the glide and have way more success gliding, where a rotationally mapping athlete will function much better with the rotation. So there's not one technique that is best for every single athlete. I would recommend starting with the glide, then look at transitioning to the rotation. But if the athlete is thriving with the glide, stick with the glide. If the athlete is struggling with the rotation, go back to or try gliding. There's not one technique that I think is superior for every single athlete. Warm-up music, this was a common one. Pre-meet music, playlist, etc. So I will say, I find myself, I love a good, like, I'll go rap, hard rock, amped up playlist, but I will say that a lot of the times I find myself trying to mellow out, especially at major championships. You have this playlist that's freaking banging and you're getting hyped up, and that is not optimal for me to throw far. Usually I'm throwing far when I'm a little bit more mellowed out. So I tend to almost avoid getting really amped up before the comp, especially too early. If I'm within an hour of throwing, then I'll throw in headphones and really get after it. But if I'm 3 or 4 hours sitting at the track waiting to throw, I don't want to be amped up that whole time. So a lot of the times I kind of stay away from the super upbeat playlists and just kind of try to mellow out, chill, and kill time. And then once I get to the actual part of warming up, I'm so focused on getting ready for my comp that I feel I don't really need it. So I love a good workout playlist, but when it comes to meet day, the playlist is not make or break for me. I can do with music, without music, just have to find that center of where I function the absolute best at. What are you trying to hit? 2275, 23, a lot of questions like that. Are you winning? Are you gonna throw 24 meters? There's a lot of regarding performances this weekend, and I'm just gonna say my main goal is to go there and qualify for Belgrade Indoor World Championships. And I feel like I'm in good shape, but I have to remind people to keep their expectations a little bit realistic. 22 meters is still a really good throw. I threw 22.45, was the officially measured distance at Millrose. And if I can surpass that, I'll be really happy. I mean, that 22.45 was the best opener I've ever had in a normally structured season. Obviously, last season I opened with a huge PB, but that was coming off of a long year without a major championship. So I feel like I'm really happy with where I'm at. The goal is to qualify. Season's best would be great. I would be really happy to throw an indoor US championship record, which is 2260. I set that in 2019. So 2260 would be great. I think a 2282 world indoor record is very possible, but that's getting to be a far throw. So I just haven't done the speed work to really catch some of those monster throws yet, but anything is possible this early. I feel like I'm strong, I feel fit. I just haven't done the speed work to really catch those monster throws. So if I have 4 more weeks as I get ready for World Indoor Championships, I feel like there could be a really big throw there. But the main goal is to qualify. 22.45 would be good. Anything more than that would be great. Maybe a world indoor record, but I'm keeping my goals realistic. And that's one thing I would recommend to all athletes is set your goals high, but set them realistic. I'm a huge fan of setting your long-term goals really high and way out there, and mine for this year are definitely out there. I want to throw an outdoor world record. I want to throw an indoor world record. But in the meantime, I don't want to get disappointed if this weekend I don't throw an indoor world record. I want to do it at Belgrade where it really matters. I want to throw the world record at the outdoor major championships. So keep your small goals in perspective, keep your far goals way up there, and really strive for those. Thank you guys for tuning into this Q&A. There were so many good questions. I got to as many as I could. I tried to group up the ones that I could to kind of get them all knocked out because there were hundreds of questions. So I appreciate your guys' input, your guys' questions. I'll do this again and try to get some more of them knocked out. But thanks again for following. Like, subscribe. Feel free to share this on any of your social medias. Kind of spread the word about the community. I'm really trying to grow the YouTube following and hopefully grow a community where you guys can chat in the comments and really grow the passion for the throwing events. So share this, get this out here. Hopefully we can get our subscriber count up and I can do more as far as live streams and all of that good stuff. So thanks for tuning in. Be on the lookout for another Q&A in the future. And the main thing is watch US Champs this weekend. Wish me luck.